Hey, welcome back to the podcast, the Evil Dungeon Master Universe podcast. I'm your host, Evil Dungeon Master Vince. Hopefully, you're doing well. It is Tuesday, and today is going to be a fun day as the weather is really bad here in Texas with the rain. We're under some tornado watches, but not a big deal. I guess that's common for here, pretty much. Anyway, theevildm.com is my website. Ask the DM at theevildm.com is my email address. You can support me by going to buymeacoffee.com/theevildm. I thank those that have gone there and donated. I appreciate it. Those that have gone to the website and signed up for the newsletter, I appreciate that as well. Get everything to your mailbox and don't have to leave there. I think it's a pretty cool idea. Anyway, I got a comment on Spotify from one of my listeners named Hunter, and I appreciate Hunter heading over there and commenting on Spotify, because you can comment on Spotify if you're a Spotify user or listener, and they added the comment section, so I appreciate that. I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts about tieflings in regards to being in a D&D fantasy setting. Should they be rare or a few, or does it really matter if you've run into an encampment of them or not? Well, as far as Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 1E is concerned, Tiefling were really not introduced as a something until Planescape. If you go to the Planescape Handbook, I believe that's what it's called. Let me get the name here. The Planewalker's Handbook on page 78, they talk about the actual playable race of a Tiefling. Uh, Tieflings were not something that people played back in the earlier editions of Dungeons and Dragons. They were something that became more of a standard as the editions evolved later day. Now, I believe 5th edition of Tiefling is pretty much a standardism in the game. Its counterpart in Aasimar is not. I don't see many people playing Aasimars, which I don't understand why. Why the Tiefling counterpart is played more than the other counterpart, but I think both of them are really interesting races in themselves. Maybe because the Aasimar is more of a wholly good race as compared to a Tiefling, which is the evil. What do they call them? Plain touched creatures. The Tiefling was very different in 2nd edition than it has become now. And when you played a Tiefling, you basically could decide how you look, because there was a table on the next page that talks about what abilities you would get as a Tiefling and what appearances would you get, and you also have side effects as far as what the Tiefling gets. Now, I don't know about 5th edition that much. I don't remember too much about it. I played it for a tiny bit because I wanted to see how well the game was. And it's a pretty solid game as far as I'm concerned, as long as you don't add a lot of the bulk onto it and stick with just the basics. I think it's fine. And it also depends on who you play with. If you play with, a normal group that is into just playing the game and not worried about the other crap that's involved with it, then yeah, you're probably going to have a great time. Now, as far as them in an actual fantasy setting, now, it really depends on the edition you're playing. Now, I mostly talk about older editions. I may touch upon 3.0. I did play a lot of 3.0 in the day. Did not play 3.5, played Pathfinder and a little bit of 4E. So my experience lies in the older editions, obviously. Tieflings and Fantasy Edition are fine if you're going to have that type of campaign. Now, looking at older editions, it's a planescape. It's a planar campaign. It's something that's not going to be normal. I don't have a lot of experience with Planescape at all. I've heard it's a great setting, but should they be rare as far as you're asking? As far as 1E is concerned, yeah, because you're not going to have a lot of planar creatures. Tieflings were basically kind of a mix with what they would call in 2nd edition demons, I think they call them. They tried to change it so there was no such thing as demon and devils anymore because they were scared of the whole thing that was going on, because they made them planar touched, so it made them a little bit different. They were crossbreeds. They were considered something else. Let's see what things they get here. Tieflings take care of themselves, for they learn early on no one really cares about them. But rather, they're withdrawn individual. Tieflings can challenge the multiverse with everything in their independent spirits. Determined to create their own fates, they dare things others might not even dream of and defy anything that stands in their way. They get a bonus to intelligence and charisma and suffer a negative penalty to strength and wisdom. They may be any alignment other than lawful good. They have a mysterious heritage, and they have infravision, and they're able to cast darkness in a 15-foot radius once per day. They suffer half damage from cold-based attacks and gain +2 saving throw versus fire, electrical, and poison. They can become fighter, rangers, wizards, and specialists, priests, thieves, and bards. They may also be multi-classed as well. And they do get a bunch of abilities. Like I said, you have to see how many abilities to randomly generate. To randomly generate special physical characteristics, roll on the Tiefling appearance table 1 to 4 times for each newly created Tiefling character. You don't know who your ancestors were, and you don't care, is a thing with the Tieflings. And I know a lot of people pronounce it Tieflings, but the official pronunciation is a Tiefling for this. When we played up as far as first edition, we never had Tieflings in the game at all. And if it was going to be some type of planar creature, it was usually some type of demon avatar or something like that. Now, when we played third edition, when I was at the comic book store in Connecticut, Sarge's Comics, I believe it was called. I don't even know if it's still there. That was so long ago. When we played third edition, Tieflings were in the game pretty much standard when we rolled. A lot of people would play a Tiefling. A lot of people would play Minotaurs as well. But Tieflings, yeah, they should be rare. They should be. You shouldn't be running into an encampment of them. You shouldn't be seeing them like just wandering the plains. No, I feel like since they're planar creatures, they should be limited. Now, again, fifth edition made them the standard thing that everybody could pretty much play, and there's no blink of an eye. With the older editions, they kind of had this whole thing that the world was human centric, and then they had these few races, the demi-human races, that were commonly found. Now, there's nothing that says in your campaign you can't have an entire city in the mountains of Tieflings. I mean, dark elves or drow were a big thing back with second edition, and a lot of people had made underground cities with them so that they weren't up because they couldn't stand the light. So I don't see why you couldn't make a whole city of Tieflings or have them wandering around, but I feel like they should only be rare. And I don't know, they fit a fantasy setting because of what they are and what they represent. But I feel like they should be rare in appearance. They are extraplanar creatures, so those type of creatures should be rare. They have special abilities. They have, they pretty much look like a demon or a devil. They have the hooves, the legs like it, the tail, and everything. They would not be socially accepted in a fantasy campaign because most people think they'd be a demon or a devil. And that's something you have to worry about. And I do recall in one campaign where we were playing in third edition, when someone was playing a tiefling, the DM did treat that player in certain towns with a little bit of a prejudice, people kind of shying away from him and not wanting to associate with him. And then when he did associate with certain people, like asking for things, they gave him short, curt answers, and they said they didn't want to talk to his kind. So that's something you could do there as well. But I don't know. I just don't see them wandering around campaigns. The way 5th edition did it, they made them as if they were just an average person on the street now. Just a melting pot. Boom, done. He's there. I think they should be a little bit restricted, and I've said that twice or three times already. So it's yeah, I'm gonna go overall with it should be a restricted race because of the way they are. I guess now with the newer editions, they changed it quite a bit. It's evolved quite a bit, so it's not the same thing you find on page 78 of in second edition. But I mean, you can also find them in the Planescape campaign setting as well. That box set, they're in there as well. It's very similar to the Planewalker's Handbook, so there's no big difference there. But they just put them in two different places for ease. Eh, it's an interesting race that I think most people wanted to play in earlier editions, but as the editions evolved on, they became more like just the blah, like a blah. No one cared, and mostly everybody just associates Tieflings with like evil things. So anytime I've played 5e, everyone that played a Tiefling, they were usually a warlock or something like that, or something evil. So I kind of stick to games that don't keep these things as common. Like Palladium Fantasy, for one, is one I play quite a bit. Roll Master's another one. Harp, Merp, things like that. Tieflings are never something I've really thought about. I don't know. I think they're planar creatures that shouldn't be around that often. I don't know. My opinion is my opinion. I like to hear your opinion in the comments, Hunter. What do you think? Would you want him in your campaign? I mean, do you think they should be in the campaign? I like to know what you think. And everyone else out there, if you're on YouTube listening to this or Spotify, go head over to the comments and let me know what you think, because I'm interested to know. With that said, I'm going to head out. Keep it original, keep it old school. Good night, God bless, and keep those AD&D fires lit. Good night.